Hello everyone. Today we have to discuss the great American novelist, short story writer who also wrote for children, the author of The Scarlet Letter, belonging to 19th century America. None other than Nathaniel Hawthorne. Hawthorne. He was born in Salem, 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 Massachusetts. Massachusetts is a very famous place in America. Now the university there is very famous. This is the place to which Emily Dickinson was also connected. Nathaniel Hawthorne, he was the son of a sea captain. There was a time when his father was lost at sea. Ultimately, his mother had to manage by herself, by the help of others, by the help of other relatives. The point of our concern here about Hawthorne is, after graduation, he returned home to stay for 12 dark years. Means after being graduated, what does a person generally do? He goes in search of a job. But what do we have about Hawthorne? He returned home and he stayed for 12 years, and those 12 years were not simple years, they were dark years. In notebooks and letters, he described his solitary existence, the self-denying discipline, the poverty, the dismal chamber in which he lived and wrote, his long walks alone at night. See, at that time, the kind of loneliness that he was having, that is very well described in his notebooks, in his letters. It was kind of solitary existence for him. Self-denying discipline. You can think about the position of a person who does not believe in himself or herself. Self-denial is there. See, when we are denied by others, we can manage. But when that denial comes from within, that is very, very complex, very complicated to bear, very difficult. Other thing that made him troubled was his poverty. He was not economically stable. The dismal chamber, the place where he used to sit when he used to be alone. It doesn't mean that he used to be alone always. No. He had a family, he had sisters, mother. And even he used to go on celebrating holidays with his friends as well. But this depiction shows the time that he spent with himself in those 12 years. The self-denying discipline, the poverty, the dismal chamber in which he lived and wrote. So he tried hard. For 12 years, he tried hard. He wanted to write something very special. He was trying for it. His long walks alone at night. It's very fanciful to imagine one's long walks at night. See, sometimes we need to spend time with ourselves, and especially writers, they are fond of spending time with themselves. He read about the history of America and New England. See, New England was one of the most lovable concerns. You know New England? It's very interesting to know that in America you can find several places with the suffix new. They all are based on the names of different cities, different places in England. Actually, what happened? In the time of the ruling of Cromwell, Oliver Cromwell, when he was the ruler there in England after the beheading of Charles I in 1649, means it was later half of 17th century when Oliver Cromwell was on the throne, and the Puritans of England, they had to leave the place, they had to leave the country. So they started departing for some other place, and ultimately most of them reached to the New World, and ultimately it was known to be USA, United States of America. So the Puritans, when they reached America, they tried to create New England there. You know, on that basis, we are having this name of place in America as New England. On the basis of Yorkshire in England, we have New Yorkshire in America. On the basis of South Wales in England, we have New South Wales in America. This is how they tried to create a New England there for themselves. So, Hawthorne read the history of America and New England. He introspected, exploring the realm of moral truth. What was the exploration? The interior of the heart. He was interested in that. Knowing the interior of the heart. These pursuits evolved three integrated elements of his stories and novels, those he used to call as tales and romances. See, Hawthorne is known for his novel writing and short story writing. He used to call his novels as romances, and he used to call his short stories as tales. So ultimately, that exploration of the realm of moral truth, where he used to think about the interior of the heart, this ultimately evolved three integrated elements in his works. And what were those elements that you find nearly most of the works in most of the works by him? The first one is sense of the past. Why? Because of the Puritans. He used to always think about Puritans of 17th century New England. As I told you that in the later half of 17th century, the Puritans used to, reach USA. So, the Puritans of 17th century of New England was his concern always. This was the past connection. He could not detach himself from it. So, sense of the past is the first element. The second one is his moral sensibility, to which you can say Puritan conscience. Of course, he was the successor of Puritans. So, he had that moral conscience, and you will find that that Puritan conscience in his work also. Puritans used to follow several moralities, several moral values, and for the sake of morality, they used to punish the people. See, when we talk of morality, to follow moral values, moral behavior is good. But its pretension by others is not good. You are punishing someone for his or her moral degradation only. Why? Because your immorality has not been exposed. This is not right. You will see that. That is there in his magnum opus, in his masterpiece, that is The Scarlet Letter, the novel. One must read it. Reading its text is awesome experience. Very beautiful writing. Reading such novels make you feel as if you're not reading a novel, as if you're reciting a poetry. You're reciting a poem. The feeling, the emotions that come out through the words of those texts, like The Scarlet Letter, like the short story by Khalil Gibran. They soothe you. They soothe you like music. Third element that we find is the capacity for creating vivid dramatic symbols of man's moral and psychological experience. So, moral and psychological experience is very well depicted through some of the symbols that he uses in his works. So, three elements that we basically find in his work are his sense of past, his moral sensibility, his capacity for creating vivid dramatic symbols, and man's moral and psychological experience. See, as we talked about the first element, how he was much concerned with the sense of past. His personal interest in history can be well understood through his work, of which I was talking. The Scarlet Letter. See, the full name of the work is The Scarlet Letter, colon, this double dot is called colon, C-O-L-O-N. The Scarlet Letter, colon, a romance. In this way, you can say that he considers his novels as romance. The Scarlet Letter, a romance. What was it? It is a work of historical fiction, published in 1850. Mind it, it was published in 1850, but the novel is set in Puritan Massachusetts Bay Colony during the years 1642 to 1649. 1642 to 1649. This is the time period of which the novel is, depicting the story. The story that you find in the novel, The Scarlet Letter, which was published in 1850, the story is not of that. The story is 1 century back. 1, or you can say 2 centuries back, because it was published in 1850, and we are talking of this, the incident happened in 1642 to 1649, nearly 2 centuries back. And it is the name of the place is Massachusetts, and the people concerning were Puritans. So Puritan, Massachusetts, and the name of the place especially is Bay Colony, Bay. It tells the story of Hester Prynne, Hesterprynne. Hester Prynne is the female protagonist of this novel. Very lovable character. Tells the story of Hester Prynne, who conceives a daughter through an affair and then struggles to create a new life of repentance and dignity. When you read the story, you can find it, at least the gist of story, on Wikipedia as well. Here we are having a female protagonist named Hester Prynne. Her husband was lost for several years. No message from his side could reach her. In the meantime, she had an affair. She started loving someone, and ultimately she conceives a daughter. But when it was realized by the people of the time, they considered it a case of adultery. So she had to struggle to create a new life. She had to create a new life because of her daughter. So for repentance and her dignity. And while reading the novel, you will find that how that simple woman, through her deeds, she gets the kind of sainthood till the end. The book explores themes of legalism, sin, and guilt. These are some of the basic themes that you find in The Scarlet Letter. Legalism, how Puritans used to use laws and orders for the people of the time. Sin, guilt, how these words used to be defined, and what used to be the implementation in day-to-day life, in the behavior of the people. When we talk of The Scarlet Letter, D.S. Lawrence, the famous novelist, poet, and short story writer of England, David Herbert Lawrence. D.S. Lawrence called it a perfect work of the American imagination. The perfect work of American imagination. See, when you talk of The Scarlet Letter, there you find an introduction written by Hawthorne, and the name of the introduction is The Custom House. The Custom House. Here, Hawthorne describes his Puritan ancestors, since he belonged to the same Puritan family. He describes his Puritan ancestors the Hawthornes, and they used to be Hawthornes, Hathornes. See, W is not here. In their surname, they used to write Hathornes. After being graduate, see, Hawthorne, he started putting W in between A and T. Initially it was Hathornes, and he made it Hawthorne for dissociating himself from. He added W to his surname shortly after graduating from Bowdoin College. Bowdoin is the name of the college, Bowdoin, in order to dissociate himself from his notorious forebears. He did not like, of course he could not like those Puritans and their judgments, how they used to impose morality on people, how they used to punish people. That's why he did not like that particular connection. So he dissociated himself by putting W in his name. See, names are there was Shakespeare who said that what is in the name? But see, by seeing people's name, sometime I observe that how they are much concerned with their names, how they are much aware about their names, their surnames. As nowadays, the women, the girls who are that much aware, they don't want to remove their parental surname, and that's why they put their husband's surname after their own surname. So they use two surnames at the same time. This is the way through which they show their understanding regarding equality, their understanding regarding their right. And some more people are there, especially some girls, they don't use any surname, even in their parental house, even after being married. So different kind of people think differently. And here we have Hawthorne, who felt differently, and that's why he was innovative. So he used a letter in his surname to make himself dissociated from his ancestors. In his solitary years, he wrote 40 short stories and sketches. 40 short stories in those 12 years. And did editorial as well. He joined an experimental community. One must remember it, the experimental community. He joined it in 1841. The name of the community was Brook Farm, B-R-O-O-K, Brook Farm, F-A-R-M. It was a group of utopian reformers. Utopia, you understand? As we know, Ram Raj in Hindi, utopia, the concept comes from Thomas More's novel. So, utopian reformers, group of utopian reformers, mainly transcendentalists. Transcendentalism, when we talk of transcendentalism, the names of Emerson and Thoreau comes first, but they were not in that group here, to which Hawthorne was member. So, Brook Farm is the name of that experimental community, and it was a group of utopian reformers, mainly transcendentalists, who helped to prove the soundness of communal living. See, before marriage, before being engaged, his life was like hell, as he describes. But after his marriage, when he was engaged to Sophia Peabody, S-O-P-H-I, Sophia Peabody, P-E-A-B-O-D-Y, after married her, he could realize the kind of happiness that he started getting. He describes it in a very beautiful manner, in a very simple sentence, and by narrating that sentence will end the video of today. He says, "We are but shadows till the heart be touched. We are but shadows till the heart be touched." Shadow doesn't have life. Shadow becomes alive after getting the touch of the loved ones. That he talks of his wife. Okay, we will end our video here for today. Thank you.